The bouquet hit the floor like a gunshot, petals exploding across the polished hardwood of the church aisle. My sister's scream tore through the stunned silence, a raw, guttural thing that echoed off the stained glass windows depicting saints I'd never believed in. And there, in the chaos, Julian's eyes locked on mine through the half-open side door where I'd been lurking like a ghost. His gaze a plea, a confession, a lifeline I wasn't sure I could grab without drowning us both. I wasn't supposed to be there. Hell, I wasn't even supposed to be in the state. My family had made that crystal clear 2 weeks ago, when Dad's voice cracked over the phone like thunder over the Iowa cornfields. Axel, this is Emily's day. Your choices. They can't touch it. Stay away. Choices. That was the polite word for it. The soft Midwestern veil over the ugly truth that I'd come out 5 years back, right after college, and watched my world splinter like cheap plywood under a sledgehammer. Mom had cried for weeks. Dad had stopped calling me son. And Emily, sweet, fragile Emily, always the golden child, had tiptoed around me like I carried the plague. But Julian had been the one crack of light in that storm. We met 3 years ago at a dive bar in Des Moines, the kind with neon signs flickering like faulty halos and jukebox country tunes that masked the ache of too many regrets. I was nursing a Bud Light after a brutal shift at the auto shop, grease under my nails, back screaming from lifting transmissions, when he slid onto the stool next to me. Tall guy, maybe 6'3", with shoulders that filled out his flannel like it was made for him, and eyes the color of storm clouds over the Mississippi. "You look like you could use a real drink," he'd said, his voice low and gravelly, laced with that easy Kansas drawl. I laughed. First time in months. And by last call, we'd spilled our guts over whiskey shots. Me about the family fallout. Him about the pressure from his own folks to settle down proper back home. It wasn't love at first sight. Nah, that shit's for rom-coms. It was something fiercer, like two stray dogs recognizing the fight in each other. We started sneaking around, weekends in cheap motels off I-80, drives up to the bluffs overlooking the river where we'd park my beat-up Ford and just talk about dreams we buried young. Mine to fix up old muscle cars and maybe open a garage in Chicago, away from the Bible Belt chokehold. His to break free from the family farm and write the kind of songs that made Nashville weep. Julian had a guitar in the back of his truck, and on those nights, he'd strum soft melodies under the stars. His fingers calloused from baling hay, voice wrapping around me like smoke. "You're my North Star axe," he'd whisper, pulling me close. "The one thing that don't shift. But the world has a way of yanking you back." Emily met Julian first at a county fair of all places, where she was volunteering at the bake booth and he was judging the livestock show. She came home glowing, chattering about this dream guy who made her laugh like no one else. I swallowed the knife in my throat and played the supportive brother, because what else could I do? When she brought him around for Sunday dinner, I saw the flicker in his eyes, the same one I'd caught in that bar. Recognition, panic, and then, buried deep, a spark that said we'd both fucked up royally. He proposed to her 6 months later, on a hayride under harvest moon, the whole town buzzing like it was front-page news in the Des Moines Register. I got the call from Mom. "Axel, honey, it's happening. Our Emily's getting hitched." Her voice was all sugar and relief, like this fixed everything. The divorce she'd filed after Dad's disappointment boiled over into silence. The way Emily's fiancé shopping trips had become her escape from our fractured home. I drove down from my cramped apartment in Davenport anyway, because blood's thicker than the lies we tell ourselves. But when I showed up at the rehearsal dinner, Dad pulled me aside in the church basement, his face red as the poinsettias on the altar table. "You think this is a joke?" he hissed, breath hot with bourbon. "Emily's walking down that aisle pure, Axel. Not like, whatever mess you've made of yourself." The words landed like punches. Old wounds reopening. The scar from when he found that faded pride flag in my duffel after graduation. I wanted to swing back, tell him Julian wasn't his poster boy for redemption, that the man he was toasting as the perfect son-in-law had kissed me senseless in a corn maze last fall. But I bit my tongue, nodded like a whipped dog, and drove off into the night, tires spitting gravel like accusations. That was 2 weeks ago. Now, wedding day dawned sticky hot, the kind of August in Iowa that clings to your skin like regret. I holed up in a fleabag motel on the edge of town, the AC rattling like a death rattle, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin. My phone stayed dark. No invites, no pleas from Emily, just a single text from Julian the night before rehearsal. I'm sorry, Axe. God, I'm so sorry. I deleted it, then fished it out of the trash folder at 2 a.m., fingers hovering over reply. What do you say to the man who's about to marry your sister because your family's decided love was a transaction? By noon, I couldn't take it. Dressed in my one decent button-down, wrinkled from the suitcase, I drove to the church, that old Lutheran brick pile where Mom had her first communion and Dad proposed with a ring from the 5 and dime. I parked in the alley, slipped through the side door like a thief, heart hammering against my ribs. The sanctuary smelled of lilies and wax, organ music swelling like a tide. Guests milled in the vestibule, women in floral sheaths fanning themselves, men loosening ties and swapping stories about last year's flood. I caught sight of Emily in the bride's room mirror, gorgeous, ethereal in lace that hugged her like a second skin, her blonde curls pinned with pearls. She looked happy, terrified, and for a split second, our eyes met through the crack in the door. Axe? She whispered. But then Aunt Karen bustled in, and the moment shattered. I melted into the shadows, pulse thundering. That's when I saw him, Julian, pacing the sacristy hallway, tugging at his bow tie like it was a noose. His best man, some cousin from Wichita, clapped his shoulder. Easy, man. She's a catch. Julian forced a grin, but his eyes were hollow, scanning the room like he was searching for an exit sign. Our gazes collided across the nave, and time stuttered. 3 years compressed into that look. The stolen kisses in truck beds, the way he'd trace my tattoos with his thumb while we watched thunderstorms roll in, promising we'd run someday. Someday, we'd said. But someday had turned to never, and now here we were, him in tuxedo finery, me in exile. The organ hit its crescendo, and the procession began. Ushers herded folks to seats, Emily's veil whispering down the aisle like a surrender flag. I pressed against the wall, breath shallow, as Dad escorted her, arm rigid, face a mask of paternal pride that didn't reach his eyes. Julian stood at the altar, back straight as a fence post, hands clasped white-knuckled around a program. The pastor, old Reverend Hale with his wire-rimmed glasses and folksy drawl, cleared his throat. Dearly beloved, that's when it happened. Midway through the vows. Do you, Julian Elias Harper, take this woman? Julian's voice faltered. Not a stutter, but a break, like a guitar string snapping mid-chord. The church held its breath. He turned, slow as a man waking from a dream, and his eyes found the side door again. Found me. I can't, he said, voice carrying clear as a bell. The bouquet. Emily's trembling hands clutching it. Slipped, petals scattering like confetti from a busted piñata. Her scream ripped the air. A sound I'd carry to my grave, equal parts fury and heartbreak. Guests surged to their feet, murmurs erupting into a roar. Dad lunged forward, face purple. What the hell? But Julian was already moving, tuxedo tails flapping like broken wings as he bolted down the aisle, past the frozen bride, past the gawking flower girl clutching her basket, straight for the doors, straight for me. I stumbled back, heart slamming like a V8 engine redlining. Julian, no? But he was there, grabbing my arm, his grip iron and desperate, cologne mixing with sweat in that familiar rush. Axel, please, come with me. Can't marry her. Not when it's you. It's always been you. The sanctuary doors banged open behind us, chaos spilling out. Emily's sobs, Mom's wail, Dad's bellows chasing us into the blinding sunlight. We ran, my boots pounding pavement, his polished Oxford scuffing beside me, toward my truck parked crooked in the alley. Tires squealed as I floored it, the church shrinking in the rear view like a bad memory. But as we hit the county road, cornstalks blurring gold, I realized we'd just lit the match. And my family? They were the powder keg. The highway stretched out like a vein pumping us north, away from the flatlands of home toward the anonymous sprawl of interstate motels and forgotten diners. Julian slumped in the passenger seat, bow tie undone and dangling like a noose he'd slipped, his chest heaving under the starched white shirt. I kept my eyes on the road, knuckles white on the wheel, the radio crackling some twangy Garth Brooks tune about friends in low places that felt like a cruel joke. What the fuck, Jules? I finally spat, voice rough as sandpaper. You just tanked everything. Emily. Christ, she's my sister. He winced, rubbing his face with hands that still smelled of Emily's Chanel No. 5. I know. God, X, I know. But standing there, hearing Hale drone on about, till death do us part. It hit me. This ain't right. Marrying her to make everyone happy? It's a lie. And I'm done lying. His voice broke on the last word, and he turned to me, those gray eyes raw, pleading. Tell me you get that. Tell me we're not crazy for this. I wanted to scream, to pull over and shove him out into the ditch where the fireflies were just starting to wink on. Because yeah, I got it deep in my bones where the ache for him lived like a chronic bruise. But understanding didn't make it hurt less. Emily's face flashed in my mind. The way she'd clung to me as kids, whispering secrets under the quilt during thunderstorms. Her laughter the one thing that had kept me sane after Dad's rages started. And now, I'd be the villain in her story. The queer brother who stole her groom. The family black sheep who'd finally drawn blood. We drove in silence for an hour, the sun dipping low and painting the dashboard orange. Finally, I veered off at a sign for Riverside Inn. Clean beds, hot coffee. The place was a relic. Faded blue siding. A neon vacancy sign buzzing like a trapped hornet. Gravel lot dotted with semis. I killed the engine and the weight of it all crashed down. We need to talk, I said, not looking at him. Really talk. Before this turns into some Bonnie and Clyde bullshit we can't undo. Inside, the room smelled of stale smoke and Lysol. Twin beds with chenille spreads. A TV bolted to the wall playing infomercials for Miracle Slicers. Julian paced while I cracked open 2 Pepsis from the mini fridge, the fizz loud in the quiet. It started with the farm, he began, sinking onto the edge of a bed, elbows on knees. Dad's heart attack last winter. Doc said he had 6 months if he didn't sell off half the acres. But the bank's breathing down our necks, and Emily. She was their ex. Every visit bringing casseroles, holding his hand. I was in Kansas City, chasing gigs that went nowhere, feeling like a ghost in my own life. I leaned against the dresser, arms crossed, the Pepsi sweating cold against my palm. So you proposed to fix it? To play white knight for her and your folks? Bitterness edged my words, sharp as the wrench I'd once thrown across the shop in a fit of rage. He nodded, miserable. Yeah, stupid, right? Thought it'd kill 2 birds. Save the farm, make your family see I was good enough. But every time I saw you at holidays barbecues you were this, fire under my skin. That night in the motel last spring, when we said we'd leave it all behind. I meant it. But then Dad rallied, Emily started planning, and the calendar just filled up. He stood, closing the distance, his hand hovering near my shoulder like he was afraid I'd shatter. I betrayed you, Axe, and her, but staying silent, that was killing me slow. Betrayal. The word hung heavy, a stone in my gut, because it wasn't just him, it was all of them. Mom, who'd sent birthday cards with Bible verses underlined in pink highlighter, urging me to pray away the confusion. Dad, whose silence after my coming out was louder than any slur, who'd pinned his hopes on Emily's wedding like it could erase my existence. Even Emily, sweet Emily, who'd whispered once, teary-eyed after too much wine, I wish it didn't have to be like this for you, Axe. But Dad, he just can't. They'd all chosen the narrative over me, the straight-line story of picket fences and potlucks, and Julian had almost bought in. My phone buzzed then, first time since the church, and the screen lit up with a barrage. Mom's voicemails stacking like accusations. Emily's texts a waterfall of why. How could you? Dad's single missive. Get your ass back here and fix this, boy. I silenced it, tossing the thing onto the bed like it burned. They're coming for us, I muttered. You know that, right? This ain't some movie where we ride off into the sunset. Julian's jaw tightened, that farmer's resolve kicking in. The same steel that had gotten him through hailstorms and lean harvests. Leching, I'm done running from who I am, who we are. He stepped closer, and for the first time since the altar, I let him. His arms wrapped around me, solid and warm, chin resting on my crown like it had 100 times before. I buried my face in his shirt, inhaling the starch and salt of him, the tears I'd banked all day finally cracking the dam. I love you, Jules, I whispered, the words rusty from disuse. But this, it's gonna break us all. We didn't sleep much that night. Talked till the walls blurred about the what-ifs, the roads not taken. He confessed the ring shopping with Emily had felt like picking out a tombstone, her joy a mirror to his guilt. I unloaded the shop fights, the nights I'd driven aimless just to feel the wind whip the pain away. By dawn, we'd sketched a plan. Head to Chicago, crash with my old roommate from trade school till I could line up garage work. Julian would call his folks, come clean, no more half-truths. It sounded simple, pie in the sky, but in that fluorescent-lit room, with his hand in mine, it felt possible. Like grace, unearned and fragile. We hit the road at first light, the inn fading in the dust. But halfway to the Quad Cities, my phone rang again. Emily's name flashing like a warning flare. I answered on speaker, bracing. Axel. Her voice was wrecked, hoarse from crying. Where are you? What did you do to him? It's not. I started, but she cut me off, words tumbling like debris. He's gay, isn't he? Julian. That's why. Oh God. I knew something was off. The way he looked at you at Thanksgiving, like you hung the moon, and Dad, he saw it too, didn't he? That's why he banned you, to protect me. A sob choked her. I hate this family. I hate what we've become. Julian reached over, squeezing my thigh, his face ashen. Emily? It's me. I'm so sorry. This is on me. All of it. Silence stretched, taut as a bowstring. Then softer. I loved you, Jules. Thought I did, anyway. But if it's him, go. Just tell me you'll be okay. Click. The line went dead, leaving a void that echoed louder than the engine's hum. We crossed into Illinois under a sky bruising purple, the city lights smudging the horizon like a promise kept too late. Betrayal had carved us open, but in the bleeding, maybe we'd find truth. Or at least a way to stitch the pieces without pretending they fit. Chicago hit us like a freight train. Horns blaring, sidewalks teeming with folks hustling past hot dog stands and blues clubs, the air thick with lake wind and possibility. We ditched the truck in a pay lot off Lakeshore Drive. My buddy Marco meeting us at a corner taqueria with slaps on the back and zero questions.
Mi casa es su casa, hermano e grind. His gold tus flashing under the tracks.
Long as you don't snore. His place was a third-floor walk-up in Pilsen. Murals splashed on brick walls outside, saints and skeletons watching over us like rye guardians. It wasn't much. Sagging couch, kitchenette with a fridge humming like an old man. But it was ours. The foothold. The first week blurred into survival mode. I pounded pavement for jobs, grease monkey resumes in hand, landing shifts at a Lincoln Park garage specializing in vintage restores. Irony not lost on me. Piecing together broken beauties while my own life lay in shards. Julian busied himself with open mics downtown. His guitar case scuffed from the road, voice steadying as he poured our mess into lyrics about prodigal sons and forbidden rivers. Nights, we'd collapse together on that lumpy futon, his fingers tracing the ink on my forearms. Anchors and swallows I'd inked after coming out, reminders to keep flying straight. But the past doesn't fade quiet. It creeps in voicemails and postcards, in the what-ifs that wake you at 3 a.m. Mom called once, her voice a ghost of itself. Axel, your father's. He's not well. The stress. Come home. We can talk. No apology, just that old hook of duty. I hung up, chest tight, and Julian found me on the fire escape, staring at the city lights like they held answers. They're scared, Ax, he said, settling beside me, his knee bumping mine, of losing the story they wrote for us. But stories change. People do. Emily reached out next. A letter, postmarked from the farm, handwriting shaky like she'd penned it through tears. I replay the church 1,000 times, she wrote. The petals, your face in the door. I was angry. At you, at him, at Dad for poisoning it all. But mostly at myself for not seeing sooner. I deserve better than a man who looks at my brother like that. Forgive me for not fighting harder for you. Enclosed was a photo. Us kids at the state fair, arms slung around each other, cotton candy smeared on our grins. I taped it to the fridge, a talisman against the grudge I'd nursed too long. The real storm hit in October, leaves turning fire red along the lakefront. Dad showed up unannounced. Rental car idling outside Marco's like a yellow flag of truce. He looked smaller somehow, the flannel hanging loose on his frame, eyes shadowed under the ball cap pulled low. Julian was out gigging, so it was just us. Me in oil-stained jeans, him clutching a thermos of what smelled like weak coffee. "Sit," I said, gesturing to the stoop, voice flatter than I felt. He did, awkward as a colt, fiddling with the lid. "Your mother's worried sick. Emily too. That stunt at the wedding. It near killed her." "No, just accusations." Classic. I leaned against the railing, arms crossed. "Killed her? Or just the fairy tale? You banned me, Dad. Like I was dirt you could sweep under the rug." His jaw worked, Adam's apple bobbing. "I was protecting her. You're my boy, Axel. Always will be. But this life you chose, it's hard. I didn't want that for her. Or you." Pause, heavy as harvest rain. "After you left for college, I sat in your room a lot. Found that journal under the mattress. All those poems about boys, about feeling wrong in your skin. Broke my heart." The admission landed soft, disarming. I'd written those pages in high school, scribbled confessions in the dark, terrified of the words even as I bled them onto paper. "You read it? And said nothing?" "Couldn't." His voice cracked, eyes glistening. "Thought if I ignored it, it'd go away. Like my old man ignoring the bottle till it killed him. But losing you, that's worse." He pulled an envelope from his pocket. Yellowed, edges frayed. "This was in there. Thought you should have it back." Inside, a letter I'd forgotten, addressed to no one, spilling my fears of never fitting, of loving in shadows. And tucked in the fold, a photo of Dad and me fishing the Des Moines River, him teaching me to cast, both of us knee-deep and laughing. "I ain't good at this, son," he said, standing. "But I'm trying. Come home for Thanksgiving? Just talk." I nodded, throat thick, watching him drive off into the sodium glow. When Julian got back, smelling of bar smoke and cheap beer, I handed him the letter. He read it slow, then pulled me close. "Proud of you," he murmured, "for holding the line." Thanksgiving came crisp and tentative. Turkey at the farm, Emily presiding with a quiet strength. Her new beau a gentle accountant from Dubuque who made her eyes crinkle real. Dad carved the bird with unsteady hands. Mom's pie a little burnt but sweet. No sermons, no side eyes. Just questions, halting at first. About the garage, Julian's songs, the life we were building brick by stubborn brick. Julian sat across from Dad, trading farm stories like old allies, and when Emily raised her glass, "To family, the kind we choose," the room exhaled. It wasn't perfect. Scars don't vanish. They just soften, like leather-weathered kind. Dad and I fished again that spring. Lines in the water, silences companionable now. Emily found her footing, her own spark beyond the veil. And Julian? His first album dropped indie, tracks laced with our story. Ballads of flight and forgiveness that climbed charts quiet but sure. We bought a fixer-upper in the city suburbs last summer. A craftsman with creaky floors and a yard for barbecues. Mornings, I tinker in the driveway, him strumming on the porch, the world a little less jagged. Love, it turns out, isn't the grand flea. It's the daily stand, the choice to show up scarred and whole. In America, where dreams die hard and rise harder, we learned that the hard way. But damn if it wasn't worth it.